Well, hello, Mary Sullivan. I'm running for Selectmen of Newbury. I grew up in the area many years ago. Left the area, recently moved back about a year or so ago. It's a lot of people ask, why are you doing this? Why are you running? And public service has always been very important to me. My dad was active in the school committee when I grew up in Bradford. My mom was director of council on aging, so I was brought up with the idea that public service is very important. And it's a really good time in my life right now to get involved now that I'm back home. My son is 19, he's in college. I moved back for family reasons as well. My mom is 86 and my aunt is 90, so I'm very active in caretaking for them. And I love the area, and it's the perfect time for me to get involved in local politics. I've been following it since I've been home, and came home many times while I was in Chicago visiting family, following things that are going on. Very concerned with, I think Newbury is very blessed with committees that are unbelievably competent. With the Finance Committee, the Municipal Building Committee, done some great work. I'd like to see the communities come together. I say communities because I've noticed that you have Byfield, you have Newbury, and you have Plum Island. And I'd like to see people sitting and coming to the table together and working these issues out and having, I think some of what's happening is constructive, but I think some of it isn't. And I'd like to facilitate having different parties sit down at the table and talk about what are the needs of our community, not just one aspect of the community. So it's about building bridges, and it's about getting some important things done. The municipal building being one very important thing that I think all of us are very concerned about. The health and safety of the employees at the town of Newbury, the police station for one, and coming to the table and saying, okay, how are we going to be fiscally responsible in doing this, and how do we get the job done so that everybody is satisfied, and we're being responsible about the types of things that we have to take care of. So I'm very thrilled to be back, and very honored to be given this opportunity to serve, people in Newbury. Do you have any questions?
I have questions. Some of these are mine, and some of these are at a gathering the other night, because it always turns to town politics.
Of course.
And and I invited the people that had questions to come, but they work. So a question I have, and you don't have to answer whether you're in favor of this or not in favor, but just how you would react to this situation and similar situations. As far as the police station has never come before us as a separate vote. It's always been the whole complex or nothing. And the voters have turned that down several times, which to me makes a statement. And so I guess I would have to ask, or the question I'd like to ask is, how would you as a select person react to that? Would you go along with the other selectmen? Or would you vote in favor of the way the people had spoken?
I'm all for what the people are saying, and I think it's been made very clear by the voters that a large project that's been put out is not what they're in favor of. I've talked to a lot of voters. I think the question of what are we going to do about this public building, there have been a number of plans recently put on the table where they're separate. So you have a standalone police station for half the cost of what the 11 million or so was to begin with. You have a renovation plan along with the police station. So there are different plans that are being put on the table that I think the voters would probably be more in favor of. So I think it's looking at all the plans on the table. The building committee has done a really good job, I think, at listening to the voters and coming back and saying, okay, so the $11 million, $12 million price tag is not what we want. What do we want? So I think there are a number of options, and I'd like to hear them all. I'd like to put them before the voters to see what they think about it. But I'm open to discussing that and working with the building committee on that and seeing, I don't know if you've seen the report that came out with the different choices. So I think it's great that right now we do have those choices, and I'd be willing to look at that and see, put it out there as for the voters just to vote on different plans that haven't been in place before.
Okay, but you said the planning committee has done an excellent job on listening, and I think they've done an excellent job overall, but as far as listening, I don't agree with that because we have never had a proposal for a police station.
Well, what I'm seeing now is the plan that was put out by the building committee. So my understanding is that there are different plans on the table right now that will be put forth, where there will be either a new police station with renovations to town hall or just a standalone police department. So what I understand they put forth before was a large complex. So what I've seen now is an answer to the voters saying we don't want such a big project, but we'd like to look at smaller projects. So that's my understanding on that.
And another one of my questions, we have a lot of open space in town, which is good. But is there any way to utilize that open space for the enjoyment of the townspeople?
I would hope so. I think Newbury is a really special place. You do have a lot of open space. You have a lot of farmland. I think it's very important for people to, there has to be a balance between development and open space. I'm very much for, I work with children, I work with communities in getting kids outside and enjoying the outdoors. So I think that there are a lot of committees in town that we could work together and plan that if that's what people are open for. But it's a unique place, Newbury. It does have a lot of beautiful open space, and it would be great to preserve that. I'm all for preserving that.
Can I ask the other people's questions?
Sure.
Okay. I'm not sure what these notes were now, but as far as the 5 selectmen, do you think that is working out, or should we go back to 3 selectmen? I think it's kind of difficult, but the people that were talking didn't think 5 selectmen were working. And one of the questions was, I think somebody at town meeting asked why all the selectmen agreed all the time, that no one seemed to have a separate opinion.
I think it's important to have a separate opinion. I certainly am a very independent thinker. I think it's very important to have dialogue and to have disagreement and put everything on the table and come, you always have to keep in mind what's the most practical, at the end of the day, the best decision for the people who live here. So I can't speak to the past, how 3 selectmen worked better than 5 selectmen. I think that as a committee, it's important when you do sit down to have differences and to make sure you have all the facts in front of you. I have a communications journalism background, so it's all about fair and accuracy for me, and making sure that I have all the facts. And then I'm voting in terms of what's best for the town. Whether or not I agree with you or not, it's important not to, because then that's how you make the best decisions. So.
And the other question that the other gentleman had asked was that you were being sponsored by a person that's on the finance committee, and would you be able to disagree with that person?
Oh,
or-
absolutely, we already do. Yeah, I have no problem disagreeing. It's part of my DNA, I think, I don't know. My father would agree with that. No, I think in a democracy, in a place where there's, not everyone is gonna agree all the time. It's just not, you can see it happening on a local level, a national level, but when responsible, well-educated people get together, you disagree. But again, in the end, you try to make the best decision possible. Is there, there's a number of ways you can go with any issue. But at the end of the day, you hope that everybody has the best interests of the town at heart and not personal, private interests, which, is important to me to vote for what I think the voters want and what I think is right,
That makes sense.
Everyone's sent care of.
Oh, I covered yours too.
It's your
Oh,
right.
okay.
Or was your question answered?
Oh, I'm not thinking. Have you been involved in the town at all?
Yeah, I was part of a focus group. When I came back, I started looking for ways to get involved, and there was a focus group based on the master plan that I sat in on a focus group. Tried to get on the Plum Island Study Committee, but was not chosen for that. And then I was placed on the Housing Committee. There's a new Working Housing Community Committee that was formed that I was part of. But with the Selectmen race, I put that on hold. But if the Selectmen race doesn't work out, then I will certainly get back to working on issues around housing in Newbury.
I asked Josh the same question, whether or not he was capable, and I'm asking you if you're capable of going after grants, attracting new businesses, and where you would find these new businesses.
Well, I administer a grant right now in early childhood, so I'm very familiar with writing grants and looking for money for programs. Unfortunately, that's kind of, especially in early education, that's where we are. We are very dependent on state funding via grants and public-private partnerships as well. And I'm very keen on the idea of public-private partnerships because I think that you can get a lot done with working in the private sector as well as the public sector. So yes, I'm very familiar with looking for money and sitting down at the table and talking about various ways to go after funding for programs.
How would you bring new businesses into town?
Well, it's a challenge, right, for Newbury because it's very unique. You have a lot of farmland, and it's very exciting to be part of a community where there's such a great support for local farming and food sources locally. I think that's a very, it'll continue to be a big draw for Newbury as people look for, closer to home answers to food issues, both the cost and the quality of the food. So I think right there you have a great base for attracting people into the area. You have Plum Island, which is a draw. So I think you have to think about what brings people here, and it's the unique aspect of the area, the beauty, the natural beauty of the land and the community. And as far as businesses, I think small town businesses, small businesses are very important to a community like this. So, building that base I think would be important. As far as comparing it to Newburyport, it's different. You don't have an industrial park. So bringing in large industrial kind of business base, I think is a challenge for Newbury. But I think it would be interesting to sit down with planners and community and say, okay, what are our needs? How can we attract people to do business here? And what kind of businesses would benefit, the town? And also people coming in, tourists. I think there's a lot of people that come in, because it is such a unique place. It's always a challenge, right? To beef up business. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for lots of communities, especially for a community like this that is so varied in its area.